TV, and he's back. Eamon Holmes, back on the TV with me this morning.
Even remember my name.
I know, it's been 4 months. You have holy water by your bed?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
already to bless.
Yeah. Oh, Eamon. Oh.
Why do you not believe anything I say?
Eamon Holmes back on GB News Breakfast at 6 a.m.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Good evening, I'm Ray Addison in the GB Newsroom. The President of the European Commission will visit the UK tomorrow to continue talks with the Prime Minister over the Northern Ireland Protocol. Number 10 says Rishi Sunak and Ursula von der Leyen will continue attempts to find practical solutions to the post-Brexit trading arrangements. After the meeting, the Prime Minister will brief his cabinet before the two leaders host a joint press conference. He may then make a statement to the House of Commons. However, influential Tory backbencher Mark Francois is warning Rishi Sunak not to try to force through a vote before they've had time to scrutinise any deal.
The rumour is we're going to get a white paper tomorrow. Well, that's well and good. We can have a look at that. But what you really need is the legal text so that you can understand the legal implications of what is proposed. And I really would plead with the government, don't try and bounce Parliament. Don't try and force us into a vote without enough information to take a proper decision, because previous examples of when people have tried to do this generally end very badly.
At least 59 people, including 12 children, have died after a boat carrying more than 100 migrants crashed into rocks off the southern coast of Italy. The boat, which left from Turkey, was carrying migrants from Somalia, Pakistan and Afghanistan. 27 bodies were found on a beach in Calabria, and more were found in the water. A ban on transgender women in female prisons in England and Wales is now being extended to include those who've committed violent offences. The new policy, which will be enforced from tomorrow, also includes trans women with intact male genitalia and sexual offenders. The Justice Secretary is describing the rules as a common-sense framework that will improve the safety of prisoners. Police in Northern Ireland have been granted more time to question a suspect in the attempted murder of an off-duty officer in Omagh. The 43-year-old was arrested on Friday after Detective Chief Inspector John Caldwell was shot at a sports centre. A total of 6 men have been taken into custody in County Tyrone. Officers believe the attack was terrorist-related. And a popular beach in Norfolk could be closed for decades, locals say, after cliff erosion made the area unsafe. The beach at Hemsby, near Great Yarmouth, has lost more than 10 feet of land in just 2 days. The local lifeboat crew have had to close the shore over safety concerns. Local businesses warn that they'll be significantly impacted. The beach is their main source of income during the summer. They're now calling on the government to step in and help. On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Time now for headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm your host, Leo Kearse, and joining me tonight to talk you through Monday's top news stories are the two always outspoken comedians, Francis Foster and Scott Capurro. How are you doing, both of you?
Doing very well, Leo. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Scott, you glad to be here on a Sunday night?
So excited. So excited. I've been thinking about it all day long, actually.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
Pacing around the house.
I slept through most of the day. I've been dreaming about it. So
right.
Here we are, yeah. It's
great
like being
to
on
hear.
the cloud. Yeah, you too. How are you?
I'm okay, you know what I mean? Another day, another dollar. That's what they pay us here. Anyway, another look at tomorrow's front pages, and we start with the Daily Mail. Can Sunak sell his Brexit deal? We're going to be covering that in a moment. The Times has I want big concessions from EU, claims Sunak. An exams body lets pupils use exam chatbot to write essays. The Daily Telegraph has EU chief flies in to seal Brexit deal as revolt brews. Sunak and von der Leyen to hold final talks on revised Brexit deal, and universal credit falls far below minimum living cost. That's in The Guardian. The next one, which is the Daily Express, says this new Brexit deal is best for Britain. And finally, the Daily Star has gone to the dogs. What's that, lassie? You're nearly extinct. And those were your front pages. Anyway, Francis, first off, let's see what the Daily Mail are leading with on the front page.
So the Daily Mail are leading with the headline, Can Sunak sell his Brexit deal? And obviously this is all about Brexit and Northern Ireland. Rishi is to hold face-to-face talks with the European Commission President in a bid to finalise a Brexit deal for Northern Ireland. And this is because they want to amend certain parts of the Northern Ireland Protocol. And the Northern Ireland Protocol is the agreement that the UK made with the EU over Brexit. And it's very difficult because, as well, it deals with the border, which has caused a lot of tension between both sides in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important that the government get this right, because if they make a misstep, it could lead to return to the bad days of the 70s and the 80s, which no one wants to see.
Oh, so it could actually lead to the breakup, the end of peace in Northern Ireland. We saw a police officer shot, and I think he's still in a serious condition in Omagh just a few days ago. And I mean, the Northern Ireland Protocol has been criticised for almost putting Northern Ireland in Europe instead of in the UK, because goods can flow freely between Ireland, which is in the EU, and Northern Ireland. But Northern Ireland, which is supposedly still part of the Union of Great Britain, goods get checked going across. I don't understand. How can it be in the UK and not, and still be eligible for customs?
Well, this is a problem because when we agreed to go through with Brexit, Northern Ireland was kind of left as an afterthought. And actually, the DUP have been the voice of sanity, and they said, look, it doesn't matter how quickly this deal is done. That's not the issue. The issue is that we get a good deal.
Right.
Because otherwise, if we don't get a good deal, like I said before, that's where you see the tensions start to be inflamed, because the border is a hot-button issue.
Right, yeah. And do you think von der Leyen has been von der Leyen the deal?
Wow.
I'm sorry.
See what you've done there.
I mean, as an American, do you think you could resolve this easily?
It's just guns. No, I think.
I mean, it worked with Israel.
Yeah. No, it's a trade agreement, isn't it? And so I'm not ever quite sure what Northern Ireland means by getting a good deal. What they want are products across the border to and from.
Yeah.
That are clean, mostly dairy products. They're worried about eggs and butter and cheese and milk.
They don't just come from dairy; they come from other parts of Ireland.
They do, yeah, you're right. So, I'm not really concerned. I don't really understand what they mean by a good deal, but I think what it also is, there is a problem within Northern Ireland politics where they didn't have a formal government for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And I think they have a hard time cooperating with one another, or even communicating with each other, or even understanding one another's accent, depending on what neighborhood they're from. So I think that's part of the mix here too.
Yeah.
Is local politics are getting in the way as well.
Yeah, yeah. But whatever happens, we definitely don't want to see a return to the Troubles, which went on for pretty much all of my childhood.
But what will happen this time, though, is no one will be listening, because most of the world, including the US, assumes that Northern Ireland has dealt with this Troubles problem.
Yeah.
And this time around, I think it'll be like El Salvador or Chile. I think people will be like, we don't want to hear it anymore.
Right,
really.
yeah.
So they'll lose international support. They'll basically be killing one another without anyone watching.
Right, yeah. Yeah, whereas previously there was support around the world for both sides.
Yeah, the Clintons cared. But now, I think American politics have moved on, really.
Right.
I think actually Biden's offended by what's going on, and it hurts his feelings.
Right. And obviously, hurting feelings in 2023 is the worst thing you can do. Anyway,
the worst.
What have the Guardian got in their front page, Scott?
Oh, well, they're talking about universal credit falling far below minimum living costs. Apparently, the UK's leading poverty charities have called for a change in the law to fix the UK's failing welfare system. To low-income houses who are earning way below the real cost of food, energy, and even basic other basic needs and stuff. So it's just saying that people are not being paid basic rates to be able to support themselves by universal care. So.
Right, yeah. I mean, Francis, is this something that worries you? If comedy and podcasting doesn't work out?
Yes, mate. Yes, mate. It really does worry me. And I've started, you know what? The closer I get to being cancelled, the more left-wing I become. That's just how it works. I'm like, actually, what is going on with the benefit system?
Well, they were very helpful during the pandemic, actually. For a lot
everybody was on benefits.
Yeah, we all were.
Yeah.
And it was great. They were really good benefits. But I think that they've decreased the amount since then. And apparently more than half of the households on universal credit, they receive even less than the basic £85 rate because of monthly caps, etc. So.
Do you think it'll be enough to convince them to go and get a job? I mean, I hate to be cruel, but I mean that is the sort of traditional way of making enough money to buy things instead of scrounging off the government.
I find it quite hypocritical, a Scotsman lecturing in English and an American about getting a job, mate.
And performers. We never know where our next gig is. They can turn off the lights in an hour and that's it. We'll never be seen or heard from again. I know what you mean, though. Sometimes I see the drug dealers behind the house where I live just running to and from, moving so quickly. And I think if only they put that energy into a job search. Imagine how well that prostitute would be doing right now. But, you know, I think these are people that, you know, they have issues and they need help. I mean, any society is determined by the way it deals effectively with those on the lower rung of that society.
But the trouble with creating a benefit system and an overly generous benefit system is that it reduces the incentive to actually go and get jobs. And with with an open labour market, because of our open borders, it means that
there's really no statistics that back up that. It's kind of a lie, Leo. I think what you're actually saying is what jobs need to do is pay more. I think the basic wage needs to be increased. I think then
the basic wage won't rise until we cut off some of the open labour market, and
or until CEOs pull their hands out of their pockets and stop dragging money into their own families.
I don't want them to do that. Why would they do that when they can get away with paying people less? Because there's an unlimited supply of people willing to do the job at any price.
There is, and that needs to stop as well.
We do need to close the borders.
No, we'll never close the borders. That's a terrible economic decision. You're completely wrong about that. Closing the borders is ridiculous, but we need to control immigration in an effective way, as Britain always has done.
I dragged you into the middle in that.
As Britain always has done.
We moved the Overton window. I agree, we do need to control immigration.
Yes, we do. That's Scottish people in the comedy scene. You're too good at what you do.
Hey, not Hadrian's
And too
Wall.
attractive. You're so flirty. Can we move on to the next story? I'm blushing.
Not Hadrian's Wall. That's one border that's got to remain open for my livelihood. Anyway, what about the Times, Francis?
Right, the Times has gone with, it's obviously gone with Brexit, which is the big story, but it's also gone with exams body lets pupils use AI chatbots to write their essays.
Oh, my God.
So there we go. Education is going down the toilet. It's been gently descending, but now it is fully gone down the pipe. So
you're a former teacher, so...
Exactly. So that's why education is in the state it's in.
Because you're not a teacher anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Because if I was there, I wouldn't let this happen. So no, kids are basically allowed to quote Chat GPT in their essays, in their exams. But this is posing a really big question for education, because the reality is, as AI gets better and better, they're going to start producing essays. And how are you going to be able to know if the essay a student produced at home has actually been handwritten or it's Chat GPT?
Yeah. Well, now that Microsoft has invested heavily in Chat GPT, you'll be able to tell because the essay will spend 47 minutes trying to connect to a printer.
Yeah, and then persuade you to take the vaccine.
You know, higher education is very strange now. It's really complicated. Also because, you know, what's been going on with Brexit for the last few years, all these higher education universities have lost all their funding. They're about to, I think, reclaim it. But I think they're all paranoid about keeping their scores up. So I think they're saying whatever it takes, because kids are so stupid now, whatever it takes to get them to do well in school, we'll do.
Well, I did see a graph that showed the decline in, was it IQ and reading comprehension and things like that in school leavers in the 60s compared to the current day. And it's been on a steady decline to the point that now university leavers are at the same level as a high school leaver in the 60s.
Yeah.
So, and that alarmed me. I assume people would be getting smarter, but apparently we're getting stupider.
I think, and less socially capable, too. I think less able to talk to one another, less able to carry on conversation, less able to concentrate and focus.
But better at Minecraft.
Yeah, there's better at that.
Yeah.
Terrible at handling change, actual cash. They are terrible at that. It's embarrassing, isn't it? Anyway.
Anyway, moving on, let's go to our friends finally at the Daily Star, Scott.
Oh, well, apparently Lassie is nearly extinct. TV legend Lassie is no longer in favor with pet lovers. Only 500 of the collie dogs were born last year. People don't really want collies anymore.
That's a shame, because they're intelligent dogs.
Yeah.
They're really fluffy. I mean, it's a cute dog. It's a really nice-looking dog.
It's a lot of fur. It's a lot of fur.
I was going to say, is that too much? You've got to groom it, and you know, you can't. You see a grooming gang advertised on the internet.
Yeah.
You attend it.
Choose the wrong
it's
one.
Wrong.
I have mixed feelings about grooming gangs myself.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, mate. That is, you've said some controversial things over the time, Scott. That is possibly the most controversial.
When I was 14, I would have liked to have been taken out to dinner, actually. But I had a boyfriend at 14. He said he was 14, although he had a mustache and a driver's license. But he also, he took me to movies and stuff. Yeah, I mean, grooming, grooming, flirting, I mean, there's some 14, 15-year-olds that need to get out of the house a little bit.
Right, I wouldn't say that in the court of law, mate.
No, but I mean, I think Scott's got a point. I mean, there are the terrible things done by the grooming gangs, but at the same time, you get taxi drivers who don't make conversation with you, which we all
can appreciate.
Getting back to the dog, I mean, do you think it's are you surprised, Francis, that this such a cute dog isn't?
No, because look, what people want now, as living standards fall, as we're all crammed into smaller and smaller apartments, people want small dogs.
That's is that what it is?
I think that's what it is.
Chihuahuas are so popular now.
Yeah, because Chihuahuas are popular. And you know why a Chihuahua's angry? Because it used to be a wolf, and it understands that it was a wolf, and it has been turned into this weird little dog thing, and it just doesn't work. No, it's too big.
I thought they were foxes, Chihuahuas. No, they were wolves?
Yeah, but they were all descended from wolves, Scott.
Oh, right. All the dogs?
All the dogs.
On Earth?
On Earth.
Okay, well, we are learning tonight. That is amazing. Who needs National Geographic when you've got headliners? The front page is done. Join us after the break for cuckooing, Rab resigning, possibly, and a COVID conspiracy that turned out to be true. Quelle surprise. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit off.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Leo Kearse, and my contractually diverse panel made up of Francis Foster, who's Latino, and Scott Capurro, who identifies as a black woman. Anyway, we kick off with Monday's Guardian now, who seem to be spreading right-wing conspiracy theories, Francis.
Yes, indeed. The Guardian have gone full-on right-wing, full-on Trump, and they have gone with the title, COVID-19 largely emerged from laboratory leak, US Energy Department says. So this is the US Energy Department, basically the US government, coming out and going, yeah, chances are, you know what you all thought? Turns out he was right. Who would have predicted it? Who would have thunk it? That actually a virus that had symptoms that were weird and bizarre and kind of different from anything we'd ever seen before emerged from a lab.
Well, I don't think it was that different. It was similar to a mild cold for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But this is something that for 2 years we were told anybody who suggested that it came from a lab leak in Wuhan, which obviously has a biological germ lab. Anybody who said that was a right-wing conspiracy theorist. And now the Guardian is coming out and saying, oh wait, actually, GB News has been slammed for allowing this view to be platformed. Matthew Sweet has slammed GB News. He says this is a lie. This is completely fallacious. And here it is in the Guardian. And it made sense right from the start. I remember the New York Post ran an article saying that technicians at the lab in Wuhan were selling cadavers of the animals at the wet market to make money, and they were making more money from that than they were from their actual jobs.
It's just so weird because the Guardian does say in one paragraph I read, I had to read this 3 times. It says conflicting hypotheses on the origins of COVID-19 have centered either on unidentified animal transmitting the virus to humans or it's accidental leak from a Chinese research lab. Conflicting hypotheses. When in before they said, no, this is racist, this isn't, we're not even thinking this. No, we are, a lot of people are.
Of course. And how can I be racist? I eat Chinese food.
Hello, I know.
Exactly. Yeah, who doesn't like noodles?
And in fact, the conspiracy, there was a conspiracy proven around this. So 27 scientists signed a letter in the Lancet dismissing the lab leak theory. And then it turned out that they'd conspired. They were being paid, essentially, by the Chinese government to sign that letter. They had a conflict of interest.
And it's so strange because both viruses and the cures for viruses have started and ended in laboratories in the past.
Yeah.
So why this would be any different, I have no idea. Why they thought this one was an isolated incident with animals biting each other or something?
I mean, the one thing is to be fair, like, the CCP are really trustworthy. And
every word they say.
It's
true.
It's true. And they're
it's
really
true,
honest.
yes.
And they were really clear right from the start.
Yeah.
When people and they were so helpful.
Yeah, they
and
were
they
really,
the lab,
and they still are really helpful.
Still are,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they still are, and
Yeah.
they're just super friendly as well.
Zero tolerance, which we love. We all love zero tolerance.
Of course.
Right, we love that.
And
impossible to occur. We'll never have it.
And they're really accepting of minorities. The Uyghurs will tell you that.
Yeah, they're hugely aspirational,
yeah,
I think.
they're good guys.
Right. Yeah.
Vote CCP.
What, you don't need to vote, they'll be in power anyway. That's the essence of communism. I wonder what the next right-wing conspiracy theory to come true will be. Anyway, we stick with The Guardian with a story on cuckooing, where drug dealers take over the homes of vulnerable people to store drugs and weapons. Scott, you've got this one.
Yeah, you know, there's a car that's cuckooing behind our building. It was a Mercedes. The tires look busted. And then I realized people were living in it and had moved into it. And the doors open every so often and drugs fly out and then the doors close again.
Right.
It's, again, entrepreneurship in action. And it's illegal to do this. It's illegal to move into someone's house, apparently. And drug them up, and then use that location to store and sell drugs from.
Is this the first time you've found out that this is illegal? It sounds like you've been doing this.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, I lived with my mom and her boyfriend for years. They were dealing cocaine out of the Toyota Corolla. I didn't know it was wrong, but anyway, it paid for our vacation to Mexico. But the point is, these buzz killers, Jez Phillips and Ian Duncan Smith, want to make it really impossible and illegal and stuff. It's like, you guys, they're just hanging out. But the people that they tend to move in with to use their homes tend to be disenfranchised people, substance people from the past, or disabled with learning disabilities, or 39 people that have had this happen to were, as you said, unemployed. So they're home all day long, right? And
notice.
Yeah. Well, and these guys.
I was alarmed at the numbers of people. I mean, during a police crackdown, they visited 799 different cuckooed addresses, and polling by the crime survey unit found that 1 in 8 people have seen signs of cuckooing in their communities.
They want to make it a penalty in the Modern Slavery Act. That's what Jess and Duncan want to do. They say that these people being held in their homes, where their homes are being used to sell drugs, are basically slaves.
Yeah.
And which doesn't really fit the definition, but that's what they like to kind of shoe it into.
Are you worried that this crackdown could lead to higher prices?
Yeah, I mean, anything that drives up the house.
Yeah.
Have a think about it.
I want the Albanians to be allowed in because my drug dealer died last year, so I've been really bereft since then.
And he was reliable, and you can't always say something like that about those boys.
Yeah,
Well, maybe if we had a less generous benefit system, we'd get a local drug dealer to fill that role. Anyway, the Express now, and biological males who identify as women won't be placed in female prisons if they've committed violent or sexual crimes. I've never heard such disgusting transphobic bigotry. Francis, tell us more.
Yes, so trans inmates will be banned from women's prisons. So rules coming into force tomorrow will stop transgender women offenders who have committed violent or sexual crimes being locked up with female prisoners in England. And this is Dominic Raab. Dominic has taken a little bit of a 5-minute break from beating up civil servants to actually sort this out. And we all at GB News are standing together as one to say this is disgusting, disgraceful transphobia. And people like Isla Graham, who is a 2-time rapist, convicted, then got prison
and a real and beautiful woman.
Yeah, and a real and beautiful woman with a stunning face tattoo, got what I call court-onset gender dysphoria.
Yeah.
Went into court, contracted it.
Just as she was being sentenced.
Yes.
She said she'd known since she was a child, though. But
and that's why she wears those beautiful leggings which hug her figure and show her stunning clitoris.
Right. Excuse me? Yes. Yeah.
I mean, Scott, I'm slightly worried.
About sending clitorises.
Trans women or males identifying as women who've committed violent or sexual offences won't be put in female prisons, but they only catch a fraction of violent and sexual offenders. So there's still going to be people who have, criminals who've committed those kinds of offences going into women's prisons.
I'm worried that this rule only goes into place tomorrow, so tonight's going to be a busy night in those jails.
Yeah.
Tonight's the night we'll make history. If you're a trans, let it rip tonight, you guys. Seriously, let it go, girls. Spread your wings, spread your training wings, and fly. Because tomorrow you're going to be taken down. Yeah, I think what we're all really concerned with about prisons in general are the safety of prisoners, and I think that the rate of
female prisoners,
particularly female prisoners,
don't really care about the male prisoners.
Well, I know a few of them. I've dated a few. They're probably better off in jail. But I think that we're all worried about the rate of drug use in prison and of violence and of rape and of harassment. So I think that overall needs to be looked at, and it'd be good if they could take care of that a little bit. So.
Yeah. And this will certainly help slightly. Anyway, The Independent now, and potential SNP hopeful Humza Yousaf has said he's frustrated with questions about his gay marriage opinions. Scott, you've got this.
Well, he's saying that. Why do I get the gay marriage? But anyway, he's saying that Kate Forbes, who's one of the 3 candidates running for the position, Nicola Sturgeon wrecked, is she's the front runner, and I think that he's threatened by her.
Yeah.
She's also a devout Christian who is not necessarily opposed to the current status of gay marriage. What she has said, though, is that she would not have voted in favor when it became like other parliamentarians did say at the time. Anyway, she was expressing her opinion. She's not saying that she's going to yank it down, so to speak, or that she's going to diminish it in any way, but she's just being honest about how she feels about it. But he's using this in a slightly weirdly homophobic way, in his case at least, to drag her down in the numbers, and she's doing really well. She's far ahead of him. She's far ahead of everybody.
And of course, this comes after he was accused by a former SNP, I think he was the former Health Secretary, Alex Neil, who said that Humza Yousaf had missed the gay marriage vote, so he didn't vote for gay marriage.
Well, there you go.
Because he was concerned about pressure from his mosque. So because drawing attention to the fact that Humza is Muslim and has some traditional Muslim beliefs, according to Alex Neil. I mean, what do you make of that, Francis?
Well, look, this is what happens when you get religious people who enter high office. They're going to have religious opinions. Religious opinions tend to be staunchly conservative, which means they just don't like gay people.
Not in the Church of England. They don't.
Not exactly, but that's not a religion as we know.
They're flippy.
That's the religion.
They're flippy-floppy on gay.
It's the God branch of Stonewall.
No, but they're a bit flippy-floppy on the gay marriage thing sometimes. But I agree with you. I mean, I think organized religion means war. These two people are at battle, and we're going to have to watch them take each other down. The thing is, the gay marriage thing. I'm conflicted about it because I'm married, and I'm going to spend tomorrow probably at Sainsbury's thinking chicken or fish, when I should be at a prison with a couple of trans people snorting cocaine off a sailor's backside. So the party's over, is what I mean. Marriage has ruined everything. So I say, maybe criminalize it. Maybe make being gay naughty again.
Make gay sexy again.
I miss a free song.
Yeah, exactly.
So to speak. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I miss being out with married men crying on their cell phones to their girlfriends, while they were,
in the sauna, saying,
so to speak.
Saying this will never happen again.
Yeah, on their hands and knees, crying in their car.
Yeah.
That was a tough position to take.
We're getting a bit too much detail from both
Sorry
of
about
these.
that.
Anyway, that's it for part 2. Join us after the break for killer robots, conspiracy theories, and extra fertile men. Sounds like the erotic science fiction I've been writing. Catch you in a couple of minutes.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's jump in with Monday's Telegraph. And does manual labour make men more fertile? Scott, I bet you're pretty good at laying pipe and know what to do with a hoe.
Why do I get the male infertility stories? My age, ageist show. Apparently, the more heavy lifting you do, the more sexually active you will be, the higher your sperm count. So desk-bound employees are doomed, I think.
And we're all sitting at a desk.
Well, we're standing comedian. At least we stand in our job when we're not here. But the sperm count quality amongst men who tend to have physical jobs is much higher. 42% decline in those who don't have physically active jobs over the last, how many years they said? Since 2000. And they did a 17-year study, I guess, until 2017, and they found that people sitting at their jobs, their sperm count dropped by about 42%.
Of course it does. I mean, look at someone who works in an office. When was the last time you looked at one and thought, he looks healthy?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Is the obesity apparently affects your hormones and affects your sperm count. And it's obesity that's been causing the drop in sperm counts across the Western world, which have dropped like 50% overall since I think the 60s.
Then they dropped really massively during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So luckily, gay men were staying sexually active and keeping the count as high as possible, But that's a lot of heavy lifting.
But that sperm doesn't really go anywhere that could fertilise an egg. So.
I mean, it goes to a lot of places. Leo.
It does. It flies about. It's quite active, and it can. You know, they don't need. You don't need male sperm anymore to have a child. Women have realised this, that men are not useful any longer.
What do they use?
You can
like
extract. You can extract semen from bone marrow.
Oh, really?
Can you?
You can. I almost chipped a tooth, but no, you can. You can, and I think women should. All those lesbies out there are on the right path, right? Because they don't need guys.
Well, they never needed them.
No.
And that's why they're so angry.
But they're so good with children, though.
Are they?
They are. They get their heads shaved. They're on the motorcycle. They're at school by 8 a.m. They get so much done in a day, lesbians. So it's just, I'm just telling you, men, to just, When
we're picking babysitters, that's what we need to go for.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
anyway,
fantastic.
The Independent next, and Woody Harrelson has gone rogue about Big Pharma's control over society on Saturday Night Live. Hopefully, Big Pharma don't decide to make him Saturday Night Dead.
Oh, yes, wow, that was tough.
That was, mate, come on. Mate, no, anyway. So, Woody Harrelson has created controversy by apparently making an anti-vax joke. He took about 6 minutes to get to the punchline. After getting distracted, he spoke about smoking weed, his love of drinking, and what kind of tree he was sitting against when he read the script. Eventually, he concluded, so the movie goes like this. The biggest drug cartels in the world get together, buy up all the media and the politicians, and force all the people in the world to stay locked in their homes. He goes, he told the crowd, I threw the script away. I mean, who was going to believe that crazy idea? Being forced to do drugs, I do that voluntarily all day. And they just sat there, looked at him, and had an absolute meltdown on Twitter and were very, very, very upset.
So people were upset with this. They call him a conspiracy theorist and all these things because he's suggesting that Big Pharma is somehow making money out of this pandemic, and part of it could be manufactured, and they own the media and the politicians.
Well, this is it. I mean, some people were very upset that they'd actually seen comedy on Saturday Night Live. It's furious.
There's an awkwardly quiet crowd watching him, and they usually are on Saturday Night Live because it's usually not funny. So at least he had somewhere he was going with that joke, right?
Yeah. We actually have a clip of it, so we're going to play that now, and people listening on radio will be able to hear it.
Okay, so the movie goes like this. The biggest drug cartels in the world get together and buy up all the media and all the politicians and force all the people in the world to stay locked in their homes, and people can only come out if they take the cartel's drugs and keep taking them over and over. I threw the script away. I mean, who is going to believe that crazy idea?
I love how the band is like, is this part of it? Are we?
The drums guy was like, should I do it? But
Yeah, it's just, he just looks like a guy who's made enough money and thought, you know what, I'm going to go rogue.
To be honest, he looks like a guy who hangs around outside Asda shouting at the squirrels.
Yeah.
But anyway, The Guardian now, and the guy who does those Dilbert cartoons is in trouble for a video he made, apparently saying it's okay to be white is a hate crime.
No, he didn't say that. He called black Americans a hate group because he was reading about a study. I read this article today at home, actually. He in The Guardian. He was talking about a study that had been done where they asked black respondents if it was okay to be white. 26% of them said that they, well, 21% said they were not sure if it was okay to be white. 26% said that they disagree with the statement, it's okay to be white. So this creator, Scott Adams, of a very popular cartoon, Dilbert, hugely popular, and has been for over 25 years. I mean, it's one of those things you see, you know, taped to people's fridges, all the work people read it, because it's about a guy in an office, very boring guy. And Scott Adams, who's made controversial statements in the past and has been pimp-slapped in the past, this time he said that based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give, he said this on Twitter, to white people is to get the hell away from black people and just, he said, get the F away. And then he went on, he expanded on that, expounded. The thing is, he knew, because he made some statements after that. He said, I know this is a career ending. I know that I'll be dropped from my publishers. I know you may stop reading my cartoon. Why he did this, I've known, because actually the statistics that he didn't quote were from a larger survey where most Americans said they were okay with that quote. Most Americans said that it was fine.
But he was specifically talking about the black respondents to this question, to this poll, and nearly half of them apparently responded saying it's not okay to be white. The phrase "it's okay to be white" isn't okay.
Of course, the poll actually, how it was really pitched, who knows? We all know that polls can be misleading.
That's a bit racist against polling.
and I understand if he read this poll offhandedly on the bus on the way to work or something and was thrown off by it. But to do this to his work and his career and to come out as someone who seems, at least from his own statements, to be terrified of the black community is really a huge mistake, I think. I don't know what he's thinking.
Well, from a commercial point of view, it's a huge mistake. I mean, Francis, what do you make of it?
Well, I mean, it was a bold move. Let's just say it like that. Scott, I mean, he had a view and he said it. And, you know, like he said, get the hell away from black people, do what I do, move to a mainly white neighbourhood. Wherever there's a lot of black people, there's a lot of crime. He also said that in the neighbourhoods.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, he just gave this smile and went, didn't expect that, did you? And we were like, no, Scott, we didn't, mate.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds, that actually sounds pretty racist.
13 months ago, he also tweeted in January 2022, quote, I'm going to self-identify as a black woman until Joe Biden picks his presidential nominee for the Supreme Court. He said, I don't want to be left out of consideration for the job.
So he's clearly referencing the fact that they had the selection criteria based on identity, based on whether you're a woman, what your race is.
Yes,
and we're seeing this a lot across everywhere, across academia, across corporate hiring.
But he's goading the black community. He's goading liberal white people and any liberal community in the U.S., obviously. Why he got away with that statement, though, in January 2022 without having his cartoon pulled from all these publications, and they did it now, I'm not quite sure, because that's reason enough to pull the cartoon.
I'll be honest with you. I think the video was a little bit worse than that.
Of course. Of course it was. But this, in the U.S., I must say, in mainstream media in the U.S., in this current atmosphere, that is enough to be cancelled.
But his original statement about identifying as a black woman, that should be allowed. That's just mocking the diversity hiring.
13 months later,
damaging to society.
And were he a stand-up comic? Yes, as a stand-up comic maybe, but he's not that. He's not a satirist.
But he's a cartoonist.
Yes, he is a cartoonist.
Through his comic strip.
It's really not. I think I don't.
Maybe he should have put it in the comic strip.
Maybe so.
Of,
and in fact, he has tried that in the comic strip. Right. And some comic strip runners, some magazines and newspapers that have a comic strip, have said over the past 12 months or so, we have had to pull his comic strip a few times because of this. So he was moving toward this video on YouTube, as you've said, and then he was building, and it sounds as though he's been in some way supported by whoever's around him, who's encouraged him to do this. Yeah. I'm not quite sure what the end game for him is, what the strategy is at all.
Maybe he's just got enough money, and so
he is independently wealthy. Anymore. That's for sure.
I thought this was interesting. So the one of the publishers that has pulled his cartoon said, "While we respect and encourage free speech, his views do not align with our editorial or business values as an organisation." That's not free speech. You know, that's free speech isn't aligning with.
But there is no free speech. There's no such thing.
Yeah,
we know this.
Yeah. And this is it.
The arts.
Yeah.
And look, and obviously, I am someone who always does his best to come out in favour of the artist and go freedom of expression. I'm going to be honest with you, Scott. You were on Trigonometry, my show. You've made it difficult to defend. What am I going to do? I'm going to come out and go, you know what, mate? Nailed it. No, I can't.
Anyway, the Daily Star now, and AI-powered killer robots are the biggest threat to humanity, although with Microsoft being the biggest player in the AI game now, these robots will have a paperclip pop up and ruin everything and then blue screen and fall over. So I'm not that worried. Scott, can you tell us more?
Well, killer AI drones are the new thing in the military. So remember when luggage got wheels? And we're like, oh, the luggage industry's been saved.
Yeah.
Well, guns, tanks, old-fashioned. They're doing really badly, and the Ukraine is really dragging along that war. What we've got, though, are killer drones. And the Russians are being very secretive about their Ukrainian killer drones. But apparently there are drones now that can target not just whole villages, but certain people. They can program a drone and say, go kill that guy. Ooh, flies across borders, 2,000 miles away. Boom, 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 kills like so.
And these are automated rather than drones at the moment generally have to be guided.
Yes, with a little control. But they can program them now.
To GPS.
Yeah, so they won't even know where some of these drones have come from. Actually, they're not. That's part of the problem is they can't trace the origin of the drone. And war has even though war seems to be still fighting over borders or boundaries, those borders are sort of hazed by this because no one knows where anything's coming from.
Right, yeah.
Or who's bombing who.
But I've noticed that ChatGPT and other artificial intelligence programs are so woke. They're just so incredibly woke that if you disguised yourself as a non-binary genderqueer person, then they wouldn't attack you. So is that the way to defeat the drones?
I think so, mate. I think it's just to go up to them and use different pronouns, say you've been oppressed, and it won't attack. You know, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing because they're a marginalised group and they come under enough hate as it is.
Are we talking about drones here? Or
drones are non-binary.
As soon as drones start demanding pronouns, I think that's it for humanity. Anyway, that's it for this part. After the break, in the final section, we'll have a fatal threesome, life after death, and woodland spirits. We're getting spooky up in here. I'm looking forward to the threesome, by the way. We'll see you in a couple of seconds.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion, and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion,
debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. We jump back in with the Daily Star now, and thousands of birds have been flocking on the streets of Mexico like a biblical prophecy. Francis, you told me birds flock to you. You must be an expert on this.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Anyway, the end of the world may be upon us because a lot of residents in Mexico are reportedly witnessing thousands of birds crawling along the streets, and they think that this is a sign of end of times or a crisis.
And we've got a video playing now, so you can see it, and it does look insane. It looks like something from a film. For anybody watching on radio, it's literally as they described, just millions of birds just walking, though, not flying so much, it's just walking around as if they're trying to become human.
Are we sure not eating some of that delicious Mexican bread is being thrown on the ground? Because is that what it is?
It might well be. One said these flocks are never a good sign.
That is, and
that's a terrible accent.
What do you mean?
Oh my God!
I'm half Latino. I can do it.
You're not watching Francis's mum.
Yeah, I am. My mother's from Venezuela.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
He just looks like a bog standard white guy.
Yeah.
I don't know what went wrong.
I'm diverse.
You should be looking like Ricky Martin.
Exactly.
The bad half. Oh my God, Jesus.
Away from the danger.
Anyway, staying with Mexico, we've got the Mirror next, and Mexico's president has tried to confound the stereotype of Latin American politicians being drug-addled maniacs by saying he's taken a photo of a mythical woodland sprite, Scott.
He's into the ALUX. Do you know about the ALUX?
No, what's the ALUX?
The ALUX is, I thought you knew. You're Latino.
Yeah, exactly.
Que está el ALUX, senor? Anyway, it's a Mayan spirit that looks a bit like an elf. And Andre Manuel Lopez Obrador, the president of Mexico, says that he has a photo with an ALUX in it, and he can prove it. But the photo, which was taken at night, shows a tree with a branch forming.
And this is the photo here.
Yeah, with a halo that looks like there's that.
Anybody listening on DAB, I mean, it looks like a tree with a branch forming.
Yeah, they're probably stars sitting in the background, and it's just a badly taken photo.
Oh,
really.
But now you say it, there are two bright points that for the
they're
eyes.
stars.
You think they're just like Venus and Jupiter aligned?
No, he's coked out of his mind. But he thought, and what he's saying, I think the reason he's saying is because one of the biggest industries in Mexico is tourism. Yeah. He's trying to get people to come and look for the ALUX.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. But would it scare some people who just want to have a pina colada?
No one gets scared anymore. People like spirits and creatures. People trust ghosts. It's all over TV and movies. People love following them around with cameras. People move toward the danger, like in a horror film. That's why people die in horror movies. What's that noise? Why are you moving toward it? Move away from it. So people like little creepy, weird things, except spiders. A woman freaked out at yoga today over a spider in the room.
How big was the spider?
It wasn't very large, but she was upside down, so it might look bigger.
Yeah. Right, yeah. And obviously being upside down, you're more in the spider's realm.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think people, he's hoping that, ALUX hunters go to Mexico on ALUX journeys and stuff.
Right, interesting. Well, good luck to them. Anyway, The Sun next with reports from someone who's dead for 90 minutes. Sounds like how I felt watching the Harry and Meghan documentary. What's the word from the other side, Francis?
So it's a man who died for 90 minutes has revealed what he saw. So he went into cardiac arrest in the early hours of a morning in January 2019. And so he was dead for 90 minutes. They tried CPR to revive him. And eventually it worked. And he came back. And this is what he said. He's Australian. He said, a lot of people asked me if I saw anything. And no, I did not see anything. No bright lights, nothing like that whatsoever. So it's a non-story. He basically died. He's got nothing to report, and it was basically black. That was it.
This is depressing. There's no angels playing harps.
No.
There's no bright lights.
No, nothing at all.
He actually said, you know, I don't really care anyway. Just as long as I'm healthy, I don't really want to know what's out there. It's not my business or something. I don't remember. So I think it's actually he wasn't really interested enough to look around.
Right.
I think if one of us and we really want to know what's out there, then we'd find out. But I think he didn't raise his hand.
We take a notebook with us, and we come back with 5 minutes of open mic material.
Exactly, yeah. It'd be our Edinburgh show.
It would be, but he said something really profound at the end. He said, if you're going to go, you're going to go. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Wow, that is. Is that your Australian?
Yes, that's my Australian.
So you're half Australian as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, brilliant.
The Telegraph now, and it looks like the next pandemic might be on its way, Scott.
Yeah, there's an 18-year-old girl. She died of bird flu in Cambodia this week, and her father's also infected. So the WHO is really concerned with the current bird flu outbreak because of those 2 cases. So we should all worry.
Right. Yeah, we're all going to die. This is the next pandemic. They told me to keep it light, but it's impossible to when there's the next pandemic on its way. And we don't even have any money to pay for furlough this time.
No.
Anyway, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Monday's front pages. The Daily Mail. Can Sunak seal his Brexit deal? The Times. I want big concessions from the EU, claims Sunak. An exams body lets pupils use exams chatbot to write essays. The Daily Telegraph has EU chief flies in to seal Brexit deal as revolt brews. The next one, which isn't written on the thing, it's The Guardian, says Sunak and von der Leyen to hold final talks on revised Brexit deal, and universal credit falls far below the minimum living cost. The next one is the Daily Express. Says, Rishi, this new Brexit deal is best for Britain. And finally, the Daily Star. Gone to the dogs. What's that, Lassie? You're nearly extinct. That sad story about only 500 Lassie-type dogs were being born last year. That's all we've got time for. We've got 50 seconds because we've dropped the last story.
You've dropped, and it's the best one.
I was ready to do it. It's the best story. Let's just cover it now. It's the best. It's a granddad. He won sex with 2 prostitutes in a radio contest. Tell us about this, Frank.
So he won sex with 2 prostitutes in a radio contest, but he died eating steak just before he was about to seal the deal.
He choked after 2 bites of steak. 86 years old. He won on Howard Stern. Howard Stern got him two hookers, and he never got to fulfill that dream.
But the good news is the brothel instead handed the pass to his grandson Ed, who'd used it that evening.
Yeah, winning.
A somewhat happy ending, ain't it? That genuinely is all we have time for. Thank you to my guests Francis Foster and Scott Capurro. Headliners will be back tomorrow and every night at 11 p.m. And remember, if you're watching in the morning, stay tuned for The Breakfast Show.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, Talking Pints But over a drink, we have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
He's the king of breakfast TV, and he's back.
Eamon Holmes back on the TV with me this morning.
Even remember my name.
I know, it's been 4 months. You have holy water by your bed?
Oh yes, already to bless.
Oh, Eamon. Oh.
Why do you not believe anything I say?
Eamon Holmes back on GB News Breakfast at 6 a.m.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store? You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Good evening, I'm Ray Addison in the GB Newsroom. The President of the European Commission will visit the UK tomorrow to continue talks with the Prime Minister over the Northern Ireland Protocol. In a statement released by Number 10, it said Rishi Sunak and Ursula von der Leyen will continue attempts to find practical solutions to challenges resulting from the post-Brexit trading arrangements. Taoiseach Leo Varadkar has welcomed the news. The DUP has refused to form an executive at Stormont in protest over the current Brexit deal. Former Trade Secretary Liam Fox says he will support the new post-Brexit deal if it's an improvement, and he expects fellow Tory MPs and the DUP to do the same.
I think the DUP will also be willing to see restrictions diminished, again, in the hope that over time some of them might disappear. I think the hope that the European Union would give up entirely on European law applying to some elements in Northern Ireland is unlikely, given what the British government conceded in the protocol. But we can make progress on that, and I think that both sides will want to see the Northern Ireland Assembly up and running because that's the best guarantee to political stability and a reduction in violence.
A ban on transgender women in female prisons in England and Wales is now being extended to include those who've committed violent offences. The new policy, which will be enforced from tomorrow, also includes trans women with intact male genitalia and sexual offenders. The Justice Secretary is describing the rules as a common-sense framework that will improve the safety of prisoners. At least 58 people, including children, have died after a ship got into difficulties off of Italy's south coast. It's reported that the boat left from Turkey and was carrying migrants from Somalia, Pakistan and Afghanistan. 27 bodies were found on a beach in the southern region of Calabria, and more were found in the water after the boat crashed against rocks during rough seas. 81 people have survived, 22 of them are currently in hospital. Police in Northern Ireland have been granted more time to question a suspect in the attempted murder of an off-duty officer in Omagh. The 43-year-old was arrested on Friday after Detective Chief Inspector John Caldwell was shot at a sports centre. He's one of 6 men taken into custody in County Tyrone. Officers believe the attack was terrorist-related. And a popular beach in Norfolk could be closed for decades, according to locals, after cliff erosion made the area unsafe. The beach at Hemsby near Great Yarmouth has lost more than 10 feet of land in just 2 days, and the local lifeboat crew have had to close the shore over safety concerns. Local businesses warn they'll be significantly impacted as the beach is their main source of income during the summer. They're now calling on the government to step in and help. On TV, online and on DAB Plus radio, this is GB News. Time now for comedy and debate with Free Speech Nation.
Cambridge University tells white people not to apply. Comedy shows such as Yes Prime Minister are flagged as encouraging the far right. And the New Puritans come for Stephen Fry. This is Free Speech Nation. Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Andrew Doyle. On tonight's show, I'm going to be talking to Hannah Barnes, author of a devastating new book about the Tavistock Gender Clinic. And cultural commentator Ella Whelan will be joining me to discuss the ongoing furore over the censorship of Roald Dahl. And a year on from the beginning of the war in Ukraine, I'll be chatting to Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Crawford about where the conflict might go from here. And also writer John Oxley is joining me to discuss Keir Starmer's 5 missions for the country. And Elliot Keck from the Taxpayers Alliance will be discussing Rishi Sunak's plan to raise corporation tax. And my studio guests this evening are the wonderful Francis Foster and Paul Cox. Welcome to the show. Francis, you had a good week?
Not really, mate,
no.
no.
OK, I'm sorry I asked.
No, it was fine. Just getting into arguments online. But you know how it is.
Goodness me, Paul.
That's your job, isn't it, Francis?
Yeah, it is.
You sort of stay out of those online spats, don't you?
I try to.
Yeah.
I've been talking quite a bit online about the SNP and Nicola Sturgeon recently, so that's encouraging some engagement, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not...
But I'm OK, I quite enjoy it.
You quite enjoy that?
I've only been doing it for, a few months, whereas Francis is...
yeah, well, wait till you start getting dogpiled by crazy anime avatars, and then you'll see what it's like. Anyway, let's get some questions from the audience. We've got a question here from Roshan. Where is Roshan? Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. Are far-right extremists radicalising people through comedy?
Well, that's an interesting... So, when I read about this, I did think it was a joke. But it's not. So you know that Prevent, which is the counter-terrorism programme, so they've issued a report that says that programmes like The Thick of It and Yes Minister, and even the Great British Railway Journeys, which is presented by Michael Portillo, who obviously works for GB News, that these are warning signs of possible extremism. They also put some books on this list, like Lord of the Rings is on there.
Yeah.
So if you're a fan of Hobbits, you could potentially become a sort of far-right extremist. What the hell's going on?
Well, this is how Hitler started, mate.
It was, right.
Yeah, he started... First of all, he went into literature.
Yeah.
Then he did a little bit of high fantasy. Then he branched out, into a bit of satirical comedy. And then he opened the comedy club. And that's really how the Nazis started.
And that's how Al-Qaeda started.
Yeah, exactly.
They used to do sketches.
Yeah, they love a pedo joke, mate.
So this is, I mean, genuinely weird. I mean, this kind of idea that... Because actually, they put out basically a list of books of the various things that might radicalise people. And I looked at it, I was like, this is a really good reading list. Like, it's got Hemingway and people like that, like really good quality authors. So, it's really scary, this stuff.
Well, what it shows is once you've drunk the Kool-Aid to a significant degree, far right is everything and everywhere.
I feel a bit bad for it. Like, Prevent is an odd
serious
one.
organisation as well, by the way, that are supposed to be there to help serious things from being prevented, not people watching Yes Minister.
Well, I've always been a bit sceptical about it because, I mean, teachers are supposed to be looking out for warning signs to notify Prevent, right? Now, that's really hard for a teacher, and they're getting it wrong. Like, lots of people are getting things wrong as a result,
Yeah, I mean, if a teacher peered through my dad's window, it'd be like a red beacon. He's watching Yes Minister, Rising Damp, all these things that are now far right. I mean, it does smack to me of something that somebody's been caught reading or watching one of these things and in the office and gone, well, that's because I'm just doing research and this stuff is far right.
So what's the logic, though? What is there? Why are they saying that this stuff leads to the far right? Is it because, like Tolkien, it's about good and evil? And I honestly don't know.
I don't think that they know.
No.
I don't think that they have an absolute clue what they're talking about. They just see some books and then they go, oh, these books are from a few hundred years ago. They probably contain racial epithets. They probably reflect the values of the time. Therefore, then Hitler.
You're suggesting they're not reading the books?
Yes.
That's probably right. OK, we're going to move on now to another question. This is from John. Where is John?
Hello.
Hi, John.
Is the University of Cambridge guilty of racism?
Yeah, so this is the School of Arts and Humanities. They started this postgraduate course at Cambridge, and it explicitly excluded white people. So it said, it listed the various racial groups that could apply. Basically, white wasn't among them. And so they've had a lot of flack for this, and I think that's right. They should get a lot of flack for this, because I think discriminating by skin colour is morally wrong. I mean, call me old-fashioned. Yeah, but that is my view of that.
That is old-fashioned, actually. Get with the times.
I know, what am I thinking?
It wasn't just white people, though, was it? I think it was specifically working-class white people, which To my mind, they've always kind of banned anyway, haven't they? How many working-class white people are doing...
What they've done is they've changed it, so they're now saying that they're going to discriminate by socio-economic privilege. So, in other words, actually, it will benefit people from working-class backgrounds, irrespective of skin colour, which is a better way to do quotas, actually, if you're going to do quotas.
Yeah.
Do you think, Francis?
Yeah, I think that is a better way to do quotas. I'm just glad that they were honest. They were like, we just don't want oiks here.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to come in, do something useful like the plumbing. That's what you're good at. Don't read the books. You're just going to get them dirty. You're not going to understand it. And you just, it's a smell as well.
There is something really... I mean, this whole sort of... this lurch into identity politics that has particularly captured the left for some reason. It really has rehabilitated racism. It has increased racism. It's made us more hyper-aware of race in a really regressive way. So how do we deal with this?
I don't understand your point. What I do when I look out into the audience, I make a mental note, I put everybody in a category, and then I judge everybody by how they look. What's wrong with that?
There we go.
That's the future.
That's progressive.
That's progressivism.
There it is right there. We've got another question now. This one's from Heather. Hello, Heather.
Hi. Are American newspapers right to drop the Dilbert cartoon strip?
Right, you've seen Dilbert, is that odd character. In various newspapers in America, including the Los Angeles Times, Washington Post, they've stopped running the cartoons because the creator, who's called Scott Adams, he was responding to, I think it was a survey about the phrase, "It's okay to be white."
Yes.
Which is like,
do you agree or disagree?
Right, because that's an old satirical thing that came from some dodgy groups, I think. So then I think about half of the people responded said they disagree with the phrase that it's okay to be white, and he said that those were a hate group that was saying that. But then he did say some very dodgy stuff. Like, he then said, I think at this point white people just need to run away from black people. It can't be fixed. That's just racist.
Well, that is racist if he did say...
Well, wait, I'm quoting what was said in the BBC article.
No, I'm not suggesting you were racist, Andrew. No. Not on your own show, mate. But he was...
Just in private.
But isn't that... I mean, if he did say that... OK, I should clarify. If he did say that, then I consider that to be a racist comment.
Yes, and so would I. I think it was 26% of the people that responded, 26% of the black people that responded to this poll said that they disagreed with the term "it's okay to be white."
Which is also mental.
And he labelled that as a hate group, which I think most of us would do to some degree. If that was... I said that I agree that... it's not okay. It's not okay to be black or Asian or anything.
Yeah.
That would put me in a category of hate.
Yeah, but again, you know, this is these identitarian discourses that I'm talking about, which now basically rehabilitate racism. That's what they do. And I think the thing with this Scott Adams guy is, again, I'm not for a second justifying what he said because I think it's morally wrong.
Yeah.
But I think it comes out of, it's a reaction against this other form of racism, which is coming from the left. And can we just get back to this point where we just don't judge people by the colour of their skin or treat them differently? How about that? What was so wrong with that idea?
Well, it's 2023, and you need to know that the only way we can overcome racism is by judging people for the colour of their skin.
It's just driving me up the wall.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. But no, I've watched Scott's videos several times because we've interviewed Scott on my show.
OK.
Right, which now looks like a bit of a dodgy book here. I'm going to be honest with you, but I was watching it.
You've seen it, then? So
yes,
was it a joke or something? Am I missing something?
No. He said dodgy things, and then he went, doubling down on it, he went, you shouldn't be anywhere near them. He goes, do what I did, move into an area where there's practically no black people, it's safer. And and then, at the end of the video, he just stopped, smiled and went, didn't expect that, did you?
OK, no, we didn't. but you know, here's the thing about this. You know, whenever we talk about cancel culture and stuff, sometimes people say horrible things.
Oh, absolutely.
And criticising them for it is the right thing to do.
Oh, absolutely. What Scott said was undeniably racist, and he should apologise.
And this is the trouble with making everything racist, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, by the way, I hadn't seen that video, and it is absolutely racist, I agree.
Yeah.
But by making everything everybody says all the time slightly racist, or calling it out as racism, it chucks this stuff out. This is the stuff that people then don't see. It undermines.
Why even have a survey saying, do you disagree with the phrase "it's okay to be white"? I mean, really, you are stoking all kinds of resentment and trouble there.
Yeah, I don't know who did the survey. Did he do his own survey?
Oh, who knows? Anyway, let's move on. OK, we're going to go on to another question now. We've got a question from someone in the audience. Who have we got? Philip? Is there a Philip here?
Hi.
You're Philip. Hello.
Hi. Should Kate Forbes have gone public with her views on gay marriage?
So, of course, the SNP looking for a new leader now that Sturgeon's back down, and Kate Forbes, very young, isn't she, Kate? I think she's about 30, 32. Yeah. She's hoping to go. I mean, there's all sorts of people. There's Hamza Yousaf, there's Swinney again, who did it for like a few years back in the early 2000s. So there's all sorts of possible people. But Kate Forbes is interesting, isn't she? Because she's very religious, very Christian.
Yeah. Doesn't like them.
Doesn't like who?
The gays.
Doesn't like the gays. I don't think that's fair, actually. I don't think that she doesn't... It's not that she doesn't like them, it's that she doesn't approve of gay marriage.
Yes.
But that is kind of the Christian view, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is sort of the fairly standard view of that faith. Should she not be leader as a result of this particular view, do you think?
No. The reality is, if somebody is religious, they are going to have those views, and it doesn't matter if they're Christian, if they're Muslim, if they're Jewish, they're going to have those views because those are the views that religion holds.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? You're going to preclude religious people from holding office. That's not compatible either.
This is a bit like with Tim Farron got into trouble for saying that being gay was sinful or whatever it was he said. And again, the point is, do these people with these religious views base their policy decisions on those views? Because that could be a problem.
I mean, it really could be a problem. But at this point, we don't know. The problem is if you believe in freedom of speech, if you believe in a liberal democracy, if you believe that people should have the right to go into the highest offices of state, then how are you going to preclude someone just because they're religious?
So this is really difficult. I saw Kemi Badenoch was interviewed about this, and of course she's the Equalities Minister, and the interviewer said, you know, do you condemn Kate Forbes for saying this? And she said, if you think I ought to condemn her, you don't understand my job. Yeah. She made the point that the Equalities Minister is also there to protect religious freedom. And she's saying she's entitled to have this religious belief. And again, it's the point I'm making, so long as it doesn't end up that she starts saying we need to ban gay marriage, right? Which she's not suggesting.
Well, this is the point. You know, I think she showed great integrity. I don't agree with her view, but she didn't lie. And you know, and one thing she didn't do, she said this is what I believe, but it doesn't mean that I would change the policy, because she's taking everybody in that spectrum into account.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Anyway, that's going to go on and on, I'm sure. We've got a question, one more question we've got from Oliver. Where's Oliver? Hiya.
Hello. Should you apologise if you tell offensive jokes?
Francis. Well, this is about Stephen Fry.
Yeah.
So Stephen Fry was a talk at some cricket club.
Yeah.
He was giving a talk at a Marylebone Cricket Club, and he was accused of making misogynistic and racist remarks at a dinner. And what I would suggest is, what is more likely, that Stephen Fry, this sort of left-leaning, you know, lovey, who's always been very progressive and anti-racist, has suddenly, overnight, become a racist misogynist?
Yeah, amazing.
You know, or was he telling some jokes because he's a comedian? What do you think?
Well, yeah, they booked a comedian and got a comedian.
Right.
I can't say what he said. I have read what he said, but it's not bad. It's just an off... And, by the way, I didn't see the context. I wasn't there. What surprises me more than anything is that somebody there... And can you imagine the sort of people that are at this place, by the way? It's £90 a head, and someone... Not just because it's £90 a head, but this is people that have followed cricket all their life. They went to Cambridge.
Right.
They come from my background, and I can't believe they complained.
No, it's very odd, isn't it?
I'm just more upset that he's stealing my material.
Well, you know what? So I should point out, by the way, that Stephen Fry said he did not make the comments that they're saying that he made. But, you know, it's absolutely certain to me that he's going to be making jokes. Well, and that should be the end of the conversation, surely.
Well, this is it. So he's saying that he didn't make the comments that he made. There's a very famous US comedian who's very good on this, Bill Burr. And Bill always makes the point that when you make a joke, you say it, and then the audience hears it, and then cuts it with whatever stuff that they've got going on in their head.
Yeah.
So you say something that is not offensive and is not intended to be offensive. They listen to it, cut it with whatever's going on in their head, maybe even mishear it, and then all of a sudden what you said becomes deeply offensive and
But that's
hateful.
also why you can't really penalise people if other people are offended, can you?
Yeah.
Because it's such a subjective thing.
Exactly. So, and by then coming out and then trying to get Stephen Fry cancelled, what you're doing is you're making the environment more difficult for every single comedian who's trying to make jokes.
Very strange one indeed. Anyway, we're going to move on now. We've got to take a break. But look, after the break on Free Speech Nation, a leading defence analyst will join me to discuss the first anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. See you in a few minutes.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Click that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway,
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView, Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Friday was the first anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The day was marked around the world. In Downing Street, Rishi Sunak took part in a minute's silence alongside Ukraine's ambassador to the UK. When Russia launched its attack, it was widely expected that Ukraine would be quickly defeated. But 12 months on, the vast majority of the country is still under Ukrainian control, thanks in part to the billions of pounds of military assistance provided by the West. To look back at the events of last year and discuss what could happen next, I'm joined now by defence analyst Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Crawford. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, it's been a year. Everyone thought this would be over in a matter of weeks. What happened?
Well, I think, I thought it'd be over in a matter of weeks when the whole thing started. But I think Putin and the Russians made the classic mistake of underestimating their enemy. And the other classic mistake of overestimating the professionalism and capacity of the Russian armed forces, which they have been found sadly wanting, which I think has come as quite a surprise to military or ex-military professionals like me, because I spent, the best part of 15 years in Germany facing the Russian hordes, thinking that, we might stop them for 5 minutes. And now, of course, I'm not so sure because they seem incompetent.
But you've been watching these events unfold, and from a strategic point of view, what do you think have been the main blunders that Putin has done?
Well, the main blunder was thinking that he could drive down the motorway to Kiev, decapitate the government, put in a puppet government, move in the Russian administration, and Russify, if you like, the Ukrainian people. I think that was a big mistake. I also think that he thought he'd be welcomed as a liberator in some areas, which has proved not to be the case. And of course, Zelensky has proved to be, I mean, a wonderful wartime leader in his own way. And in terms of PR, he's way ahead of Putin.
Does this suggest that Putin is actually losing the propaganda war? Because obviously Russian state media has put out the idea that Ukraine is really a far-right territory. There's all those kinds of things, but Putin's popularity is really, really high among Russians.
Well, it is high, and I think that's partly because, or perhaps mainly because, Putin controls the state media, and they'll pump out really stuff that he approves of. He certainly hasn't won the PR war in the West or in the USA or North America, whereas Zelensky is a bit of a hero in many ways. Now, I know Zelensky is not, and you'll know as well, he's not completely flawless individual, but he has certainly risen to the occasion and proved his mettle.
I mean, has a lot of it been his capacity to persuade other governments to support him? Because the sheer number, the amount of money that's been put into this war from the West is astronomical.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. There is also a question of whether actually we're now involved in a proxy war where NATO is up against Russia and the Ukrainians are doing the fighting. It's not quite a proxy war because NATO is not necessarily directing the agenda or the strategy or the tactics. But of course, what Ukraine is trying to do is very much in NATO's interests.
Yes.
Hence the large amounts of aid, both humanitarian and military, that's been going into Kiev.
But also there have been overtures for years about the idea of Ukraine becoming part of NATO and the EU, and that this is... I mean, to what extent do you think... I know Putin's whole argument for many, many years has been this possibility of NATO expansionism. Do you think there was anything in that, any merit to that?
No, I think from a Russian perception there may well have been. I don't think personally, although unless I'm being very naive, that it was a sort of NATO strategy to expand to the east, to constrain Russia and eventually overthrow the Russian regime. I think it's a matter of perceptions here.
Yes.
Now it's going to be pretty difficult for Ukraine to join NATO, although I think in the end they will do. But of course the thing that Putin has got completely wrong, he didn't understand that by attacking Ukraine, all the other bordering states would become slightly concerned. And of course now we've got Sweden and Finland applying and will join NATO eventually, and Finland before Sweden, I think. And I mean, that's completely counterproductive from his point of view.
And if that happens, I mean, that's sowing the seeds of some very dangerous things, isn't it? If they are part of NATO and Russia does breach those borders, then it becomes a global conflict, doesn't it?
It certainly becomes a regional conflict, and most certainly, I think, also global, at least in terms of naval warfare. And if Russia takes on NATO, there's no doubt about it. Russia will lose. NATO is far, far better equipped, far more adept at military operations, and it's at the end game for Russia.
And yet, a lot of people are predicting that China will increasingly become involved. I mean, they're already talking about air support for Russia from China. I mean, if that does happen, that changes everything, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly it switches the dial slightly higher. Russia to date has not sent any of what they call lethal aid to Russia, at least not that we know of, from open sources. And of course, there is this conflict in the Pacific, where the US and China are not quite at loggerheads yet, but there's definitely competition there. I think if China does send large quantities of weaponry to Russia, then the one thing it will do is prolong the war even further than I thought it would ever end last.
So where do we go from here? What's going to happen now? Is this just the kind of conflict that there is no end in sight?
Well, there's no end in sight yet. I think that at the moment we're going through a bit of a sort of operational pause while Russia is sort of reforming and recuperating and re-equipping and conscripting more soldiers, and that will take them some time. People say that the Russian spring offensive has already started. I don't think that is the case. I think they're mounting a number of spoiling attacks to prevent the Ukrainians going on the offensive. And I don't think the Ukrainians yet have the wherewithal to mount what I'd call a proper strategic offensive, which I think will be designed to retake Crimea. And I think Crimea is the strategic goal of both sides. He or she who controls Crimea controls the Black Sea and the entrance to the Sea of Azov. And I think that if Putin won't give it up, he will not give up Crimea. So Ukraine would have to take it. But I think, and I've always thought, that if Ukraine managed to take Crimea, then there might at least be the beginning of a consideration of peace talks.
Is that the way out then? Diplomacy, ultimately? Is it even possible?
Well, it always is. And unless you go back to the Second World War and the Allies' demand for unconditional surrender for the Nazi regime, I don't see that's going to happen anymore. I think it's got to be brought to a negotiated halt at some point. But at the moment, I don't see either side being prepared to compromise.
Yes.
We haven't got to that point yet. Where that point is and when it might happen, I wouldn't venture to guess.
And a lot of commentators talk about Putin and the nature of his character, the nature of his ego, and the idea that in order to win him round, it would have to look like he's had a victory. You know, what they call the Golden Bridge idea. You've got to give him a way out.
Yeah.
You've got to give him something to go to the Russian people and say, actually, this was all worth it.
Yeah.
Is that going to be the way that they...
Well, I think it's going to be very difficult because obviously the Ukrainians have a say in all that. But I've sort of mind-gamed the scenario whereby Crimea is taken by the Ukrainians, and then the Ukrainians might look at the Donbass or those Russian parts of the Donbass and say, you know what, maybe we can negotiate some sort of land swap agreement. But we're a long way away from that yet.
Very interesting. Well, Lieutenant Colonel, thanks so much for joining me tonight. Really appreciate it.
A very great pleasure. Thank you.
So then after the break on Free Speech Nation, I'm going to be joined by the author of a new book on the decision to close the Tavistock Gender Clinic. See you in just 3 minutes' time.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Andrew Doyle. So, the Tavistock Agenda Clinic... oh, by the way, before I begin, I should say that we're going to be doing our Unfiltered Dilemmas tonight. I've got Paul Cox and Francis Foster in the studio to help you with your problems. Please do email us in. It's gbviews@gbnews.uk, and we will do our best to answer your problems. Any problems at all, just send them through. So the Tavistock Gender Identity Clinic in London is due to close in the next few weeks. It was the NHS's only such facility for children and young people, and the decision to shut the clinic follows an independent review into gender identity services. Hannah Barnes has written a book about the Tavistock, and I'm delighted to say she joins me now. Hannah Barnes, welcome to the show. So for those watching who don't know about the Tavistock Gender Clinic and why it was shut, what were the main problems there?
There were many. I mean, one was that we had, as you said, one national service for England and Wales and that's it.
That's it, right.
So they were completely overwhelmed with the numbers that were being referred, which dramatically increased from 2009 onwards and
Yes.
really had this sort of explosion around 2015. So they haven't been able to cope with the numbers. The independent review that you mentioned, undertaken by Dr. Hilary Cass, has said that one service model isn't sustainable and it is unsafe, and there needs to be a fundamental rethink. Now, we've had a hint at what the new services replacing the Gender Identity Development Service will be, which sort of talk to what the problems were. So one is there needs to be far more holistic, Dr. Cass has said, so taking into account any other difficulties that young people might be experiencing. And this is what, you know, many clinicians have said, that young people presenting, of course, were distressed or around their gender or had gender incongruence, but there was so much else going on besides.
So you've mentioned other issues, you know, issues such as you note that between, I think, 80 and 90% of those referred were same-sex attracted, so they might be dealing with...
Well, we've got really limited data, and this is part of the problem surrounding the service generally.
Yes.
So that comes from one referral year, 2012, of those who were of the older ages, so over 12. But yeah, those were just...
And also the preponderance of those suffering from autism within the pool, and also other issues. But a lot of the critics will say, but if you start this sort of explorative therapeutic process, that's a form of trans-conversion therapy. That's what the accusation is.
Yep.
And indeed, there are moves to outlaw that. Is that something that concerns you?
Well, all I can say is that many clinicians who've worked there say that what many of those young people needed was more explorative therapy. They weren't saying they would rule out physical transition at all, but they were saying that some of the assessments were too quick and they just couldn't take in anything else that was going on. If they were, you know, a very few number were 2 sessions, but even in the 3 to 6 session model that GIDS followed, they just said, well, that's really not that much time to explore all that might be going on. And it wasn't about ruling out puberty blockers as we